What is going on, everybody, and welcome to a weekly update. And in this video, what I like to do is prepare you for the week ahead. So I bring up events, I bring up earnings, I bring up the Federal Reserve schedule, different events that I think will have impact in the upcoming week, as long with some stock picks for the week based off of technicals and what the current state of the market is. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing, as I not only provide weekly updates, I do provide daily updates as well to get you prepared for the day and the week ahead. So let's get right into a state of the market. This week we had some core CPI that came out. It really didn't affect the market too much. The market was at 8.5, which was under, I believe, the 9% estimated, which is extremely high. But being said, any positive news, if it missed estimates, is a positive, and so that's the way the market's been taking it at the moment. Again, no new news is a positive sentiment in my mind for the markets. Also being said, we did have an event on Tuesday that essentially was driving the market down. I think we pushed above critical levels, and then we started sinking because of this event in New York that took place. Provided a little bit of panic, and so the market sold because of that. And then coming into today, because Thursday we pushed back up, and then coming into today, ultimately we are at the middle cycle for option expiration. That is around the 15th of every month. So understand that around that time you will have some normal selling. And it is also pre-earnings. We did have some bank earnings. A lot of banks didn't do very well at all, which is not a good sentiment. You had some good, some bad. So the market essentially took us right back to ground zero going into next week, which is actually quite interesting because I wasn't actually aware, but we have Tesla earnings next week. We have a lot of different earnings that I wasn't even expecting. A lot of stuff seemed to be pushed up quite a bit. We have Netflix on Tuesday, Tesla, ASML, LRCX on Wednesday, and Snap on Thursday. What's interesting is TSM reported earnings Thursday evening. They did extremely well, and something that was we could kind of foresee coming into Friday why we would sell. TSM came in, again, great earnings and expected earnings, and then we sold off. It completely flushed. So that told you essentially either one, it was the options expiration, or two, the market wasn't going to go into a 3-day weekend, essentially, because the market's not open on Friday because of the holiday, that people aren't holding until next week. So being said, it could very well be that. Again, we're still at a level, I think, in my mind, we're still very bullish. We'd still sell off quite a bit before I think we start getting some kind of bear territory again. And then that's it, essentially. There's a lot of other earnings, again, but these are the primary ones I'm looking at. Events, Russia, Ukraine, either the war ends. I kind of change this up a little bit. These are some like general sentiments that could happen, that could affect the market currently. And then these are some other scheduled events that could occur that could cause some volatility in the market, or perhaps change direction or sentiment of the market. So I always try to keep these the ones that hold the most weight in my mind. There is a lot of scheduled stuff, but again, always in my mind, I try to pick the ones that have the most weight. Some of them will bring volatility, yes, but what's going to possibly change the direction of the market? And that's why I put those on these events here. Again, so the Fed, we got asset purchasing. If that changes at any moment, which I think it's not going to change unless the war ends, that could dramatically change the dynamic of the market. Wednesday, we have the Beige Book, which is going to be important on how that could possibly affect this asset purchasing. So those notes will essentially tell us what's going to happen in the next meeting, which will take place in about a month from now. So just be mindful of that. We'll have to see what goes on there. It could be a big driver of this week. It's kind of funny that comes out on Wednesday. You also have Tesla on Wednesday earnings. So there's a lot going on there. And then Thursday, we have Powell. Now, he's a discussion here. I don't know if it's going to be pre-recorded, or he may not actually field any questions. If he doesn't field any questions, this won't hold a lot of weight. But we won't know until Thursday. And then at that point, we'll understand where he stands and what he's doing there. And then as far as watch list this week, a lot of times I like to put these expected moves here because it really tells you which. These are why I play these stocks, because they have big moves. And if it doesn't have a huge move, I don't want to play it, because a lot of times you're digging deeper for particular moves in hopes that something will move, a particular sentiment that could take a long time. And so what I try to do is look at the expected moves and play those ones that have bigger moves and stay with those. That's why I play a lot of these beta stocks a lot more, because of that fact. They have bigger moves within a week as opposed to some of these smaller ones. Even Snap, a $6 move is a huge move. It's like 140% move. So you have to be aware of that. It has earnings, and so that's why it's on here. So it's expecting some big moves there. But majority of these, again, Tesla has earnings, so I want to watch that. Google could move off of Facebook. And then Amazon, I think, again, is at a critical point if the market does decide to sell. Shop and Amazon are the two of the big ones I like to play to the downside, as well as Google up and down. Same with Tesla, up and down is always good. And then Shop to the long side. Now let's get into state of the market. Like I've kind of said in the events and everything, going into this week, there's a lot going on this week, and so that is essentially what I'm looking at there. That kind of puts everything very generalized, pretty black and white, so you can see what it is. Now, as far as technical wise here, again, I think we can still sell way off to the 42.59 is a possibility. And then from that point, we would still be bullish just as long as we didn't tag back down here at the essentially the 4,200 mark is what we're trying to avoid. Right now, we're still holding that top range, which is very good. As long as we can get some positive news, I think we can start heading back up very well. I've been kind of playing this channel for the past couple days. We broke back into it and had that nice pump again. And then we had options expiration on Friday or on Thursday. So being said, are we going to continue to push up? We really need to break out of this range. As long as it holds essentially that 4,400 mark, we should be pretty solid. Again, if we break back below there, we can sell off pretty hard. I know a lot of people are talking about a crash. If we do come down, again, I think we're going to hold this level, this 4,200 mark. I don't think we break that. I don't think there's a strong enough catalyst to break us down. Again, the market is designed to go up, so I don't expect any kind of breakdown below that, but we'll have to see moving forward. Again, and we want to break, if we could break over this 44.69, I think that would be very bullish in my mind. I think we can go all-time highs, but we do need something good, something positive. Again, we have the beige book, which could drop us down more, and then you get the Fed in about a week. So maybe this week we do decide to sell off because of the beige book. Hopefully Tesla and everything does well. If they do bad, I can see us selling off. And then possibly from that point, once that's out of the system, I think we can go for a couple week rally. We might be playing this really volatile moves, these big ups and then downs and then big ups and big downs. I've talked about this kind of throughout the year, especially when we started transitioning. I wasn't actually expecting this to go up as crazy as it did. But I think these parabolic moves like this are something we're going to see this year in between these meetings. I think is what you're going to see is these massive moves and then kind of sell off going into the meeting and then massive move and then sell off going into the meeting back to all-time highs. I think is what we're going to see going forward. But now Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been interesting. It's been bouncing back and forth. But like everything else, I'm not concerned unless it breaks that 32K mark, which I don't think it's going to. I still have a strong support here at that 38K mark, which it hasn't even touched yet. It could touch this week if the market sells off a little bit more. But also looking for this to continue pushing up as well. Be great if it actually pops back up from this point. Something I've talked about. You're looking for those couple point touches, and then normally when you just before you get the parabolic move, you almost get that final touch before that does happen, and then it stops just short of that demand zone, and then it just rips from that point. So that's what I'm kind of thinking is going to happen with Bitcoin. Again, I think it's possible. There's still a lot going on with Bitcoin that I think is not reflected here. Again, if there's regulations and everything, I think you're going to see a more version of this in crypto. It's going to be more like the stock market than what you're normally seeing with the extremely volatile moves. And so I think that's something that everybody that does trade crypto or is in crypto needs to understand, that it is not going to be as volatile as it used to be, and regulation will normalize a lot of those different stocks into what you see in the stock market. And so that's just something you may need to get used to and be aware of going forward if there is any kind of heavy regulation on crypto. And then Tesla earnings, it will be interesting. Now, something I started to realize, I was thinking we had another week or so I think we could have had a little bit more of a parabolic move, but actually, our pre-earnings run-up was right here from your 700. Whoops. So your pre-earnings run-up essentially was from your 700 up to 1150. That was your pre-earning run-up. Now, at this point, we might just continue to chop, and then we'll get earnings, and we might pop a little bit. It doesn't really help that there's been a lot of news over the past week with Elon and Twitter, and Elon trying to buy Twitter. And so that being said, where is that going to leave Tesla? Now, Elon did sell some Tesla to buy that 9% of Twitter. If he does, for some reason that he does buy Twitter, he'll be selling more shares. So if that happens, this could come down pretty good if that is the case. Again, you want these things to not to continue to run, but pull back and normalize so you can re-enter and then go for the next earnings run again. But again, we've started already descending down because of a lot of different news and just market sentiment in general. It's kind of pulled this way back. But being said, I think Tesla might just have earnings from this point, may try to pop and then just continue to sell back down and kind of normalize, and then wait for it to start chopping, consolidate again for its next run. I think is a strong possibility. Again, I think this was the pre-earnings run up here. Now reflecting back on it, still a higher low. So I think we could still drop down to the 937 mark. And then if they do really good on earnings, I think you could see possibly a run back up to 1146, an attempt to run back up there. Again, I think it really depends on the market in general. I think we'll get into full earnings next week with everything going on. I think, again, we're still pretty solid from this point. So looking for Tesla again this week, ultimately watching earnings, seeing what it's doing. Again, everything's been priced in. Tesla's expecting a 76-point move. Because that being said, normally Tesla prices in like over a 100-point move. So it's already taken into account this big pre-market run here. So a 76-point move would essentially almost bring you back up to that, essentially that 110 mark, almost back to the all-time high. So that seems about right. So we're looking for that. I think, again, if they do crush earnings, I think it's going to hit that and then continue to start selling back off. I think it's about a higher low here, and then continue to start selling off again, going into that cycle, going into the Fed. So just be mindful of that. Again, sometimes it's easier to see these things once you reflect back on them, especially when you start getting parabolic moves in Tesla. That is going to be your move. I mean, that was a huge move it made in a matter of days. So you just wait for it to consolidate for that next move like that. Amazon is another big one. Now this one is pretty much just because of the expected moves for this week. Now we retested that 20 EMA monthly, and we rejected extremely hard off of it, as you can see. And so going into this week, its earnings isn't until the end of the month, so we got another week or so. I don't really expect a lot from this. I expect possibly even an attempt to try to re-break this. But again, I think with the Fed and everything coming on, it did have this, again, massive run. I think this was our pre-earning run here. Yes, it was really early, but again, the first 2 months of the year, we pretty much sold off because we were anticipating the Fed raising rates. And then pre-earnings came really early because of that. And then now we're just sold off. And so because of this parabolic move being so close to earnings, I think you might see a little bit more selling, and then we might have an off cycle. It might be a really weird cycle we're going through just because of the way the year started out, and then trying to recover some of that will probably be a little bit after earnings, I think, possibly towards the end of some of the other earnings of this Q1 of 2022. So I think we're going through a weird cycle right now. So just kind of watching the stuff, we might just continue to sell into earnings and then flip and have another massive parabolic move. Again, I think this is going to be what the market's going to be like this year, is have this weird cycle where it's your pre-earnings is like almost a month off from when it's actually earnings. So this pre-earnings is like a month off from actual earnings, I think is what we're going to see a lot of. So, and then we got a lot of splits. You got Amazon, you got Tesla, you got Shop, a lot of different splits going on, mainly because of possibly recession, to try to recession-proof some of these stocks. It does help a lot when if we do go into a recession, which a lot of people are talking about. So that's what I'm watching this week. Shop will be interesting. It has really been beaten down so much, and then now that it's going to get a stock split, it's not at 1,500 anymore. So doing a stock split now is really just to try to again combat, try to make it a little bit more recession proof at this point. Apple's done it for many years, and now some of these bigger techs are starting to do that and try to help preserve the company when and if that does happen. So Shop is looking only for a 46-point move. You can actually see this again watching this 580 mark. If we do get a clean break of this, I think we get a solid sell down to 510. Again, I'm more short biased on Shop just because it just hasn't had any momentum. It's attempted to do it and then just continues to keep selling. So I think I'm more short biased on this one going if the market does continue to sell. So I want to watch that. Google. Again, Google is much like Tesla. I'm very strong either side, so I'm really kind of watching this again 2,500 mark going into this week, and then see how that does. If it does do well on hold, I think we still got another week before Google. I think Google will actually do really well for earnings, and I think you could potentially get another massive run, possibly up to that 2720 mark. I think it could be a strong possibility. Do I see it getting back to the 2854 mark? I think the market in general really has to change, but I don't think it's really going to give up this 2500 mark unless something really bad happens with Google. So this is a really good one to play both sides. So really looking to the upside for this one as long as it's going to hold that 25 mark. But from that point, again, just be mindful. This one does sell off very quickly when the market starts to panic. So just be mindful of that one. But that's got an 80-foot point. It's got the second biggest move going into this week. So you really got to be careful with this one as well. And then Snap is the other one I do have. And Snap did really good on its last earnings and kind of had this massive run. So kind of looking for that, kind of watching this 2830 mark. If we do sell into here for some reason during this week, looking to see what it does there. Again, if you're looking for any sympathy plays, Facebook could get a massive sympathy play off of this if Snap does really well. So always look for sympathy plays when you're looking at these different things and kind of seeing what it does moving forward. So really watching that level. And again, it's been playing this range up to 40. So if you can snag it down here at the 28 and play it to 40, tight stop, I think this is what you're going to have to be playing. These tight ranges, just be mindful. This is what we're going to be doing, I think, again, for a good portion of the year towards the later half of the year. And I think the later half of the year, after we get some earnings and some more understanding of inflation, some more understanding of the war, I think we'll start. I'm still very bullish. I'm still very much a perma bull, and I think it's going to continue up. Again, that's the way it's designed. So that's kind of what I'm looking for going into this week. And then ASML and RCX are, again, some other ones I'm kind of watching. I didn't really put them on a watch list, but semis will be interesting, or chips in general will be interesting to see what happens because of the way TSM did really well, and then they just tanked. So I want to see how they do going into this week. If ASML does really well, I think the chips can make a comeback. I think it's something you really want to keep an eye on this week is chips, especially with TSM, and see what happens. Again, those are both on Wednesday, so if they do well, could see a monster move going this week. So I definitely want to keep those on watch. This has broken support, this 465 mark here. I'm kind of actually looking for a retest here on the daily, which I thought it could have retested today. But if you get a retest off of here, you're going to get a really hard rejection off of here the first time. So I might actually try to capture that hard rejection off of there. One thing I don't like about LRCX is it really kind of dies off slowly. It's not your AMD or NVIDIA, so I really hate to short it because of that fact. It doesn't die quickly and it chews up premium. So a lot of times I like to just take it long, either in shares or in option calls, and that way it works better for you to the upside than it does to the downside. So, but definitely want to keep this on watch as well. But if you've made it this far, I appreciate you. I know this video is pretty long, but there's a lot going on this week. So go ahead and drop a like button. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.